Okay, so WWE Super Showdown live in Melbourne, Australia. I'm happy for the people of Australia. They filled up the arena with over 70,000 people to get a show with some of the top superstars of the WWE. But unfortunately, I wish they got a good show. So I did get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch this 4 hour spectacle. And for future reference, I would suggest not going to eat at Golden Corral the night before something like this. Now, I have nothing against Golden Corral. We go as a family about once or twice a year. But when you eat that much food, it kind of gives you a hard time going to bed, and your mornings, especially your early mornings, are not meant for sitting for a 4 hour wrestling marathon. So, anyway, we immediately start off this Super Showdown with the New Day versus the Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus. And the two from the New Day are Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. And we had a decent match going on here. I thought it was interesting that Big E did not have anything to do with this match other than being a cheerleader. But in the end, the two small guys versus two of the bigger guys of the WWE prevailed with kind of an interesting finishing move where Xavier Woods did kind of a code breaker next to the turnbuckle while Kofi and Kingston did like a double stomp to the chest onto Cesaro and got the pin. So the New Day are still champions. But one of the things that just came to mind is, these guys before every match come down to the ring and throw pancakes to everybody. And, these are oily, sweaty wrestlers throwing food to people. And on occasion, I've seen some of these people get these pancakes and start eating them. Well, in this particular time, while these guys were going to the ring, Big E was pulling the pancakes out of his tights. I mean, his singlet, if you will, and throwing them out. And I was just wondering to myself, did anybody try to actually eat one of those pancakes that came from Big E's sweaty gullet? I mean, that's just a thought that if it doesn't keep you up at night, well, nothing else will. But that's just interesting. And then if you did catch one of these pancakes, it's not like a baseball where you can save it and maybe get it autographed. I mean, what do you do with it after you catch one of these pancakes? I mean, do you seal it airtight in the bag forevermore and go, hey, that was a pancake that I caught at an event? Yeah. So, sorry to get off on a tangent, but it just happened to pop in my head as I was watching Big E throw at least a dozen pancakes. And I'm also thinking to myself, what does that feel like when you're walking down to a ring with, loaves of cooked bread next to your body? That's just got to be weird. Anyway, if you want to post your thoughts about that, by all means, put it in the comments below as we go on to the second match. So, we immediately go to the next match where we have Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch. And if you've heard any of my reviews for SmackDown for the past few weeks, I've been really liking Becky Lynch's attitude and her demeanor against the WWE as well as Charlotte Flair. And in this case, she's kind of turned up the notch to be the heel because it was obvious they were trying to have her be something, but the audience wasn't really going for it because we were still cheering for her. When I say we, I mean myself, as well as you could hear the obvious cheers on television. So I think they're trying to really make her unlikable, and maybe they'll succeed with that, but at this point in time, the audience is really enjoying her shtick. Anyway, so the match goes on, and those Charlotte and Becky go back and forth between doing their moveset. And then finally, we see Becky, try to leave. She grabs her belt and tries to take off. But of course, Charlotte gets a hold of her and brings her back in with the belt still sitting there. So it's obvious that the belt's going to come into play. So eventually, Charlotte Flair gets Becky Lynch in the figure 8. And Becky Lynch has to grab her belt and hit Charlotte Flair with it. And we get a disqualification. So there we go. Charlotte Flair wins, but Becky Lynch keeps her title. And, she's doing heelish things. Now, I know I did not put out a prediction video earlier. This week just flew by, as every week seems to do when you get to my age. So, I'll be frank, with these kind of side pay-per-views, I did not think much was going to change. I did think one championship was going to change. And I'll tell you that later on in the program. But so far, I did have the idea that the New Day was going to win. And I had to feel that I thought Becky Lynch was going to win here. So right now, I am 1 for 2 in my own personal predictions. And going forward, I'll kind of try and say my predictions before I do a recap of the match. But anyway, Charlotte Flair wins by disqualification. Really nothing unpredictable there. So we go to the third match between Elias and Kevin Owens versus Bobby Lashley and John Cena. Now, I kind of had a feeling that this was just something for the WWE to shoehorn John Cena into, simply because the build-up to this match really had nothing going on. And what I mean by that, we had KO quit the WWE only to come back and randomly attack Bobby Lashley. And then Elias, who I really particularly like when it comes to his promos, but we really don't see him having any matches or programs against anybody. And for the past few weeks, they've been talking about this tag team match, but we never saw John Cena. So I had a feeling, since we haven't seen him since basically WrestleMania, he was going to come, do the match and leave. And since it was something we haven't seen him do in a while, that he was going to prevail. So lo and behold, it's exactly what happened. Elias and Kevin are in the middle of the ring. And I have to give Elias props because it's obvious he plays the guitar and he's getting better and better every week. But he tries to placate the crowd by playing the first few notes of Thunderstruck from AC/DC, which, if you haven't heard, is an incredibly difficult riff. And he gives it justice for a little bit, and then he starts to lose it. I guess he just doesn't have the stamina yet. So he moves on to something else. But the crowd enjoys the effort. It was pretty cool. And then they tried to, get the crowd to hate him by saying something against the Australian sports team. And then Bobby Lashley comes out. And as he halfway comes down, then we see John Cena pop out. And the crowd, loves him and everything. And the match starts where it's basically Bobby Lashley versus Elias and Kevin Owens for a few minutes. Let's say about 10 minutes or so. They're going back and forth, and Cena is basically not doing anything other than, trying to get the tag. But it's obvious that the way they programmed this match was for Cena to have little involvement. Either because he's in between movies or in between other projects and try to limit his chances of being injured. In fact, he has a full head of hair, so I have a feeling he's in the middle of a role somewhere. But in the end, Bobby Lashley gets the tag. John Cena comes in and literally does and I didn't say dove, does a half dozen moves. He does 3 shoulder blocks, the attitude adjustment, the 5-knuckle shuffle, and then they call this thing the 6th move of doom, where he goes into this power mode, does some type of punch, and believe me, I couldn't figure out what it was because the camera was angled weird, and then gets the pin. And I have to say, that was, for a match itself, like I said, I really wasn't invested in it, but it was even worse with that kind of finish because it just looked silly. And it really, really did nothing for me. I mean, I'm happy for the people of Australia, but that kind of match, personally, I could have done without. So, instead of giving it more time, I'm going to go on to the next match. Okay. So, somewhere along the lines, Asuka has gotten on somebody's bad side because they've paired her and Naomi for the Super Show Down match versus the Iconics. Australia's own Iconics. Peyton Royce and Billy whatever. I don't even take the time to remember their names. That's how much I think of them. So, when the Iconics are coming down to the ring, they're going, "Hey, it's nice to be home." And the crowd goes nuts. And typically, when wrestlers or performers are performing at home, they usually say so, afterwards, or, that they really don't make a big deal out of it. But this time, they made a huge deal out of it. And I got a pit in my stomach because this kind of told me how this match was going to go. Originally, I had given the win to Asuka and Naomi. But like I said, after hearing the crowd, I kind of had a feeling that I was wrong. And needless to say, I was. So you have the ultimate performer. And when I say ultimate, I mean a seasoned, well-groomed performer in Asuka. A decent performer in Naomi. And then you have the Iconics. And I'll actually say one thing. Peyton Royce, she's actually not too bad. It's the other one I really can't stand. Billy. Anyway, so I'm gonna end this quickly. Somehow they were able to knock Asuka out of the ring and do some type of double team move on Naomi and get the pin. And the crowd goes nuts because, their hometown players won. Yay. All's good for the Iconics and for Australia. But golly, that was a crap of a match. Craptastic of a match. And I'm just glad it was over before I had to deal with any more of that. Alright, so next, which I thought was pretty early in the card, but you have to end up somewhere, was the match between the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe for the SmackDown Heavyweight Championship. And in all honesty, I thought it was Samoa Joe's time to win here. He had so many near misses in previous matches, not only with Samoa Joe, or not only with AJ Styles, but with other champions. I really thought that the WWE creative would do a swerve here and give him the win. Well, needless to say, I was incorrect, to say the least. But this was a match where it went on for quite a while, and both performers, I would say, gave it their all. I wouldn't say it would be the match of the night, all things considered. But it was a decent match. We got to see everything, and it was a no DQ match. Which, for a no DQ match, I was expecting to see a lot more outside things going on. But for a majority of the match, they just stayed inside the ring, and then later on they started pulling out, chairs and tables and stuff. But like I said, decent match between these two. I have a feeling we'll see them again, either at Crown Royal or at Survivor Series. But I'm really hoping this whole visiting family and all that kind of stuff has moved on, and we can go back to just two wrestlers not liking each other, because I was done with that weeks ago, and I believe the rest of the WWE world has too. So here we are in the next match. We have a 6-man women's tag between Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins and the Riot Squad. Now, I'm a huge fan of Ruby Riot and her girls. They're halfway decent wrestlers. Ruby Riot's very good. But at the same time, the way they've been treating Ronda Rousey is that she's the second coming of Brock Lesnar, which in my other videos I said, this is how they need to do her, but I would have had her, work her way up before winning the championship. But now she's won the championship and she can do no wrong. I wanted her to be a better wrestler before she won the championship. But now she's a champion and still a poor wrestler. So we have her and the Bellas, which they're halfway decent wrestlers. Nikki Bella is by far the best of the three. And we have another match where, we have these guys going through the motions. And props out to Liv Morgan, who, in case you didn't know, got knocked out by Brie Bella a few weeks ago on Raw. And a lot of people thought, she might be on concussion protocol and not be able to perform for a while, or might be out permanently due to career. But she was back on Raw the following week and here this weekend, and it looks like she hasn't missed a step. So I have to give her kudos for that. And they did a serviceable match. It's not too bad of a match. But once again, when you have Ronda Rousey, who has basically learned to do only a handful of moves, and that's the body throw, a few punches, and, a rollover slam, you kind of, an arm bar, you kind of have to figure out how the match is going to end. And in this case, it was no different. Except at the very end, she had both Liv Morgan and Sarah from the Riot Squad, I forget her last name. She had them both in arm bars. She was able to overpower them both at the same time. So she put them both in arm bars for the win. They both submitted. So, in this match, Ronda Rousey wins with a double submission? I don't know. You guys tell me how that works out. I was just ready to move on to the next match. Okay, so here we are. Cruiserweight title on the line between Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. Before, when I found that this match was going to be at this event, I did not have a prediction because I did not care. Simply because I hadn't seen Cedric Alexander perform since WrestleMania. I really don't watch 205 Live. And I had not seen Buddy Murphy perform since NXT. So I really had nothing to say about this match. I had no involvement. I had no quote-unquote skin in the game. But golly, by the time this match was over, I was all in. And I hate to use those words because that's, part of another promotion. But this match did it. This was the match of the night. If it wasn't 4 or 5 stars, I don't know what is. And I'm not a professional wrestling critic and all that, but this match was awesome. You have Cedric Alexander, who's an excellent performer, and you have Buddy Murphy, who, after watching this match, I didn't realize he was that good. I didn't realize he didn't do that much in NXT. But he went all out in this one. And, in case you didn't know, because I didn't, he's from Australia too. So, once they labeled that, I kind of knew how the ending was going to be. And for those of you not counting, I was guessing Alexander to win. You know, at the moment they said he was from Australia, I was like, okay, he's going to win. Give the local boy a championship change, because all the other championships are going to stay the same. Because nobody's really invested in 205 Live, so you can change this, and it's not going to hurt anybody. And that's what happened. But the match was still good. These guys flew in the ring, out the ring. Any move you can think of, these guys did. And it looked good. There was one where Buddy Murphy launched himself out of the ring onto Cedric Alexander, and I had never seen a guy fly that far. But these guys pulled the match of the night. This was a match worthy of WrestleMania. In fact, if these guys have a rematch at the next WrestleMania, it should not be on a pre-show. It should be right in the middle, because this was the match that got the crowd going. This was the match that was just ultimately good. And even though Cedric Alexander lost, hey, don't feel bad, bro. You put on a hell of a show. And you deserve whatever you get in the future. And this is the kind of match that I want to see on Raw and on SmackDown. These are the kind of matches where is why I think NXT has better pay-per-views than the WWE, because of matches like these. We need to see more of these. And it doesn't have to be the high-flying triple somersault and everything, but good matches. And this was a good match. So anyway, I can't say much more to it. So I'm going to go on, because by the time this match was over, it's hitting the 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, between 7 and 8. And when you get up at 5 with a half full belly, you start to get sleepy again. But I'm trudging through. And so here we go. Alright. So the next match we have here is The Shield, with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, versus Braun Strowman, Dean McIntyre, and Ziggler. I have to admit, that match really didn't do much for me. In fact, I found the most interesting thing was, at the beginning, how the Shield go down to the ring and they walk through the crowd. Well, this time I couldn't help but notice that these guys were wearing face masks. And of course, it looks all cool. They're kind of, looking like ninjas or Scorpion or Sub-Zero from, Mortal Kombat fame. But I had one of these thoughts as they were walking down, because are they wearing that, to look cool? Or they are wearing that for their own, protection? You know what I mean by that? They're in a new country, dealing with new type of people, and walking through a crowd like that, you kind of suscept yourself to a new type of germs. And you can easily, get sick in new ways. So by wearing those, masks, were they protecting themselves from any type of viruses that they're not normally protected against? Anyway, these are the things I think of when I see things like that. Anyway, like I said, the match was okay. They went back and forth, fighting, throwing each other around. And in the end, the Shield wins. At the same time, I'm ready for this Super Show to be over. So, I'm off to the next match. Okay. So, we have Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. And whoever wins this match goes on to meet the SmackDown champion at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia in November. And, we've seen these guys go back and forth over the past few months at SummerSlam and Hell in a Cell. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to have another long match here. Miz comes down to the ring. Bryan comes down to the ring. They start throwing each other around. We get a few yes kicks. Small package. Daniel Bryan wins. It's over. Sorry about that. The match was over in literally 2 minutes. Maybe 3. But it wasn't a long match. It was over just like that, guys. Daniel Bryan gets the pin with a small package, walks off, music blaring, everybody yelling yes. The end. Now, did I have a prediction for this match? Yes, I did. I had figured The Miz was going to win again. And they were going to string this along either till Survivor Series or maybe all the way to WrestleMania. But evidently I was wrong here. And if I didn't mention the other previous match, I had predicted the Shield to win, and they did. So anyway, here we are off to the last match between two iconic legends. Okay, so final match. We have The Undertaker versus Triple H, The Game, the Cerebral Assassin, the COO. And in the corner of The Undertaker, we have Kane. And in the corner of Triple H, we have Shawn Michaels. Now, lo and behold, this was interesting because, as far as I knew, it was a normal match to start with. But then, after the main players get to the ring, the announcer says that this is going to be a no disqualification match. How interesting. How interesting. Now, before I get into this, my prediction was The Undertaker was going to win. And so these guys battle it out for, golly, I think it was about 15, 20 minutes. And they do everything they can to each other. They throw each other around. They do the last ride. I think even not the last ride, the old school, where Undertaker walks on the ropes. I think even Triple H was going to try and do that before Undertaker got a hold of him. We had a few choke slams. We even had Undertaker do the crossface. And of course, Shawn Michaels interferes, which causes the interference of Kane. And then we have a chair. And, Undertaker is not getting the pin, so he's getting frustrated. So lo and behold, what does he do next? He punches out the referee. With one punch here. He punches him, referee's down, referee's not getting back up. Apparently referees have glass jaws. So he takes the chair and proceeds to whack the living hell out of Triple H. And these were solid whacks. I'm pretty sure everybody in that stadium heard it. Even the guy who bought the nosebleed sections for $5 Australian could hear that. But in the end, Triple H gets a hold of his sledgehammer and starts using it. But neither one can still get the pin. And if I remember correctly, I don't think I've seen the Undertaker do his iconic sit-up pose. But you have to give him, some slack. The man is in his mid-50s. He doesn't have probably the abdominal strength that he used to. In fact, he had a little bit of a gut there. But like I said, he's been doing this forever. Triple H still looks cut as hell. So anyway, these guys are going at it for longer. And then Shawn Michaels comes in. And they somehow are able to knock Kane away. They probably told him something was going on back in Tennessee. He had mayoral duties or something. Because they were able to distract him for a few minutes. And then they proceed to, as the Undertaker is about to do another tombstone, Shawn Michaels does a super kick. And then, as he gets a hold of Shawn Michaels, Triple H is able to hit him with a sledgehammer. And then Shawn Michaels hits him with another super kick. And then Triple H hits The Undertaker with the pedigree to get the pin. So yes, 2 super kicks, sledgehammer, and a pedigree to get the win. Now, we've already seen The Undertaker lose twice in WrestleMania. Oh, wait. Yeah, twice. So, seeing him lose at the Super Showdown really didn't do much for me. But last time when they had a match like this at WrestleMania, they all, hugged and brohammed. And granted, I realize they have a lot of respect for each other and behind the scenes. But I like to keep things kind of storyline. And if I'm a guy who says, hey, I'm going to kick your ass, and you turn around and beat me, immediately I'm not really in the mood to start holding your hand up. Especially when you beat me, using some underhanded stuff. So, they go into that whole spiel. They hold hands and raise their hands up, and the crowd's going nuts. Yay, 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 yay. Then The Undertaker and Kane proceeds to lay the smackdown on Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Couple of choke slams, and I think even a tombstone on Triple H. And they proceed to walk off. That's the stuff I like to see. End the match with a simple, hey, you might have beat me, but screw you. Don't hold my hand up like you respect me. Damn it, I'm pissed. You beat me. I'm going to take it out on you and then walk off. So I have a feeling that we're going to see more of this. Probably at the Crown Jewel. And maybe even all the way to WrestleMania. But I have to say, it was a decent match between two legends. Undertaker, I have to admit, you still have the mojo out there, but you're not a young man. It's time to, or it's getting very close to hanging it up. I enjoyed watching you over the years, but it's getting tougher to watch you nowadays because you just don't have the ability like you used to. Anyway, still a good match. Still better than some of the matches out there. So there you have it. The Super Showdown in Melbourne, Australia. Which, if you actually watch it, it's basically a commercial for Melbourne, Australia's tourism. Because in between the matches, we saw a commercial for not only some of their products, but to come visit Melbourne, Australia. And I have to admit, it kind of worked because halfway through the show, my son looks around at me and goes, "Hey, Dad, you want to go to Melbourne, Australia with me?" So, case in point, advertising works. Maybe one day we'll go. But all in all, the show was a decent show for, Australia. They got to see everybody they wanted. But, storyline-wise, it was pretty much non-eventful. I had a feeling, when you have, like I said earlier, when you have these side shows, they really don't want to do anything to mess up the main storylines too much. And that's exactly what they did here. So, if I were to give it a rating, I'd give it 3 out of 5 stars. If I had to give it a grade, I'd give it a C+. Anyway, if you had a chance to see the Super Showdown, or if you plan on seeing it, let me know. Post in the comments below what you thought of the Super Showdown. So, and after this, we have the all-females pay-per-view, The Evolution. I won't be able to see that as it airs. I will be on a boat out of town. But I'll probably see it when I get back. And then right after that, we have the Crown Jewel in November. I should be able to see that one. So if you like this review and recap of the Super Showdown, hit that like button. And if you want to hear more of my reviews when it comes to wrestling pay-per-views or shows, let me know. Post in the comments below. And tell me what you thought of the show. I like talking to you guys. And if you're new to listening to me rant and rave, and you actually made it this far on this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Helps out the channel. And you can always tell me what you like and what you don't like about the channel. Do I talk about wrestling too much? Do I talk about TV too much? Let me know. And until next time, peace.